All right, what is up, people? Welcome back to Blue Chip Prospect once again. Today, we keep going down my first round ranking, going through number 24 to number 15. So, there's not much to explain here since I already did it in the previous video. So, let's get this started right away. So, to start this out today, at number 24, I have the small but very mobile defenseman Mikhail Gulyayev. Gulyayev is very appealing in terms of stats. He was the most productive defenseman on the Russian team at the Linka Gritsky Cup almost like 2 years ago now, with 5 points in 5 games. This season, he traveled between the MHL, the VHL, and the KHL. In the MHL, his numbers are so good that he's actually has the best production ever in terms of points per game for a first-year draft-eligible defenseman. He also did very well in the VHL. I didn't watch any of his KHL time because he played like 3, 4, or 5 minutes per game, and I feel like I can find better stuff to do with my time than skimming through a whole KHL game for 3 minutes of ice time. Now, in terms of skills and tools, Gulyayev has a little bit of everything, but his game is defined by his high-end skating. One of the very best skating defender in this draft, actually. His mobility is really good in every direction. He can evade pressure easily, even though the pressure applied to outlet passer and skater in the MHL isn't that threatening. He skates just as well going forward or backward. He has as smooth a pivot as you can get. Overall, just a great skater. I have him in my first round because his ceiling is very high. The combination of his offensive hockey sense, his skating, his playmaking is a real threat, but he's 5'10" defender that isn't that much engaged in the defensive zone or off the rush. I'm not sure engage is the right word because he does try, but he isn't really effective in his own zone. But he can easily close gaps and match the attacking forward with his backward skating. So even though it's a work in progress, there is progress and there's potential defensively as well as offensively. One thing is that even with his production this season, it's hard to see it all translate to the North American game. The main reason for this is that a ton of space is given to him in the MHL, but he doesn't seem to use it effectively with regularity. He's not that mobile on the blue line. He's not using the space given to him to create shooting lanes by moving laterally and get that defense moving with him. In the end, Gulyayev is a project. Given the size, it's a risky project, but there's a lot to like and a lot to build off of. I can certainly see a team with multiple firsts take a swing at him in the first round. If not, I think he'll be a day 2 type of guy. At 23, I have Axel, Sandin, Pellikka. Once again, he has great statistical profile, 36 points in 31 games in the J20, which would place him in the top 15 for points per game production in the first-year eligible defenseman. He also exploded at the U18 with 11 points in 7 games and also contributed 5 points in 22 SHL games, which would put him just outside the top 20, somewhere between players like Nils Lundqvist and Liljegren. In terms of skills, he's another one that has a great toolkit, but is a smallish defender, and transferability of his skills in 5v5 game is questionable. I liked him a lot at the U18 when I watched him, but I wasn't a fan of him in the SHL or even in the J20. I know that Pellikka at 23 is a bit outside the box, and most people see him higher than that, especially after the recent U18s, but he's not my preferred type of defenseman. I think that with his creativity, his puck handling, his shot, his four-way mobility, he has what it takes to be a first power play type of player, but I question his defense, therefore I question his 5v5 ability as a defender. I saw him get turned over way too often off the rush for a guy that has good skating like he does, and that's without saying that he's often lost when the opposing team has established himself in the zone. I don't think he's bad like a bad defender, but I'm not optimistic on his defensive game, which would limit his deployment. But if there's one guy in this draft that can figure it out and project to have the tools to run a first power play, it's him. Offensively, he can create many ways. He is a very mobile and very active on the blue line. He understands how to break down the first layer of defense and how to create passing lane with his mobility. He also has the eye to find the shooting lanes and get the puck on net through traffic. Like Gulyayev, he's a bit of a project, but for a different reason. I think that offensively, he's got it covered, but he's got to learn to better control his gaps and when to close it, and to better defend in his own zone, and also how to make better plays under pressure, or at least how to evade pressure, as he's a bit missing that fake and manipulation tool in his kit, and often get caught because he didn't try to sell going right before going left, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I think he's good value at 23, and while I wouldn't personally take him higher than that, I can certainly see a team who lacks that offensive demon in their system take a swing at him before that. At number 22, I have Lukas Dragicevic. It's higher than most, but he's a bet that I take all day, every day. I already made a full video on him, so I will fly over this one a little faster, but my appreciation for him has grown a lot since I made that video. Stats-wise, it's 75 points in 68 games. It's a better production than players like Bowen Byram and Morgan Riley had in their draft year. It's also pretty much on par with Olen Zellweger. Obviously, production is just one part of the equation, but he's got that part figured out big time. Since I made the video, I changed his grade a bit. I bumped his hockey sense from a 7 to an 8, and I also brought his playmaking and puck skills up a notch. If we compare with Pellikka, we just talked about, one of his weaknesses was his overall deception. With Dragicevic, it's one of his biggest strengths. He can sell anything he wants to a forechecker or a covering player in the offensive zone. He sells what he has to, and then he executes on his play with his usual offensive brilliance. Offensively, there is no doubt he could be a very productive defenseman in the AHL, a first power play quarterback, no problem. The real issues, they start with his skating and his defense. I can forgive his defense because, as he said himself, he's been a defender for only 3 years. It's a work in progress, but progress there is. There's worse defenders that has been defenders all their life, so that's a positive. But the skating, man, it hinders his game in every way. It prevents him from being better defensively as much as it prevents him from transitioning the puck forward himself. It's either a fake on the forechecker followed by a pass, or he's completely stuck in his zone and he can't break it out. Defensively, gap control is inexistent and he has real issue following the puck carrier along the board. If he commits his weight one way, he doesn't have the agility or the power to correct that mistake and prevent scoring chances. And that's at the WHL level. Forget about the NHL level when every attacker will come at you with crossover patterns to make you come at one side or another and burn you mid-stride. He's a real significant risk, but he's a highly skilled 6'2" right shot defenseman with one of the best hockey sense in the draft. And like I said before, he has been playing defense for only 3 years. I'm sold. I'm a full-time believer. He's the one guy that has a realistic chance to drop that I really hope he dropped to the end of the first round so my Habs can grab him and run. Guys, if you like videos like these, please take the time to like and subscribe. It helps the channels a lot and it gives me a good dopamine rush every time I see my videos are doing well. So thanks, and back to the content now. And at 21, and I know that's gonna make Squid98 happy since he's been screaming his name in the comments for 2 weeks now, I have Gracyn Sawchyn. I know it's not as high as some of you have him, but with the depth of this draft, it makes it hard to have him higher than that. Sawchyn isn't a guy that will wow you with his stats, but they have to be taken into context. With 58 points in 58 games and only 18 goals on the season, those are not shiny numbers. But for the most part, he played on the second line and sometimes the third line and even sometimes the fourth line in the playoff and also on the second power play unit. So I think that when you take that into consideration, he's taken the opportunity given to him and made the most out of it. Sawchyn is a very well-rounded forward. He's a very good passer and has a knack for sending the pass into the slot or taking it there himself. He has really good hands that he can use to extend possession in the offensive zone. And he's also a very hard-working player that competes to his fullest for every single puck battle or every races or to hunt players down defensively. It's hard to watch him and not fall in love with the player. I know that some people think he's too reliant on his hands to make plays or overhandles the puck too often, but first, I don't think he's too reliant, especially since he uses them to keep possession in the zone or along the board. And second, yes, he overhandles the puck sometimes, but he put himself in precarious positions sometimes, but more often than not, he can stick and roll his way out of it or at least open lanes with a few fakes here and there so we can send it to an open teammate. Like I said in my top 10 playmaker video, I saw him many times with 1, 2, or even 3 players on his back along the board and get out of it with the puck on his stick. Pretty impressive player if you ask me. Now, he's an average skater and a pretty light player at 157 pounds, and that's weighted by NHL Central Scouting, but he put everything that he has in every stride and every puck battle, coming out with possession more often than not. I don't think he's going this high in the draft. I'm fairly certain he's a day 2 guy because of his shot and average feet for a light 5'11" player, but overall, he's a good bet and I'm excited to see what he becomes. At number 20, I have Eduard Sale, and honestly, just like Boot and Honzek from the last video, he's a player I would like to rank higher than that because I like them very much, but the depth of this draft in the top 20 or so, and the uncertainties make it really hard to do so. Sale didn't have the greatest year in Czechia this season with only 14 points in 43 games, but he had much better international tournaments at the recent U18s and the U20s. Also, if we put his production in Czechia into context in terms of point per game, he's really close to a player like Martin Necas or Necas, I don't know how you say that name, and players like Jiri Kulich while playing a very similar ice time with between 10 to 14, 15 minutes per night. So it's not as bad as some people make it out to be. In terms of skills and skills alone, Shala is a top 10 player all day, every day. And we've seen it for years now. But his compete and his fragile frame prevents him from showing off. He's a 6'2" player that skates really well with deep knee bend and great explosiveness and agility. He's a top playmaker that can pass the puck cross-ice through traffic, no issues. He can shoot the puck hard with precision while in stride or at a standstill. He also has a great one-timer. He has hands for days and can beat defenders with ease, but sometimes he looks completely uninterested and can't be bothered to play any kind of defense. He has so much tools, he could be a constant threat every time he touches the ice, but often just completely give up on plays and does absolutely nothing with or without the puck. Sometimes he won't even try to get into scoring position or pocket of space to receive the puck. But when he's on and it's clicking, he's the most dangerous player out there. He's a very versatile offensive player. He's always the best playmaker on the ice, and he can also score from a distance. I'm not generally a low-compete, high-skill type of guy. I usually want to stay away and put them lower than they often deserve in my rankings. Skill alone will not get you there, but I don't know the context. I don't know why he's so inconsistent in effort, but the team that will take him will have a gem to work with. If he's interested in working hard on the ice and in the gym to gain some strength, they only need to bring his effort level and defense to an acceptable level to maybe get an offensive star out of him. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes next year, but just like Brad Lambert last year, who seemed to be completely overwhelmed by the Liga, I think the same story is repeating itself in Czechia with Shala. I think it'll be just fine and prove everybody wrong, but I have a blind trust in Czech player to develop into great players no matter what the draft year looked like. And at number 19, I have Riley Heidt, and I absolutely do not believe he is going to be picked in the first 20 selections. Heidt comes with great production, amazing skills, but many red flags. Nonetheless, he's one of my favorite players to watch in the draft. Like I said, production is great, but hidden in that 97 points in 68 games comes the fact that nearly 50% of his production came from the power play. Actually, it's 44%, but still, that's impressive. 39 of his 72 assists are power play assists, so that's the first red flag. Not many examples of great NHL players that have that much of their production coming from the power play, but the skills are the real deal. There's not many players in this draft that can handle the puck at full speed like he does. Heidt plays at very high pace. Not that he's an extremely fast skater or powerful skater. He's an over-average skater, but he plays on arcade mode all the time. Everything is at top speed. He is a great distributor and can pass the puck any way you want it and hide his intentions at the same time. He's not the fastest decision maker with the puck on his stick, but he has the hands to keep it glued on his stick while he's figuring out what to do next. He hasn't scored that many goals, but I believe he has a better shot than given credit for. Same thing for his physicality. He is not afraid to mix it up and hit people hard, despite his 5'11" frame. Offensively, he has the physical tools to succeed, but I'm not sure he has the processing power. Not that he doesn't see the plays, I think he has great vision, but it's sometimes just a bit late. I think that he too often takes his sweet time to execute or see the plays that is developing in front of him, which is probably why he's so successful on the power play. The added time and space give him the little extra that he needs to get to that next level. Another red flag is that defensively, it's bad. Like Shala previously, there's no effort or even willingness to participate. But that is always something that can be worked on. Sometimes in junior, you are relied on to produce, so you will cheat more and exit early every chance you get to create offense. So maybe it's just that. Maybe it'll be fixed later on. But at this moment, all he has to show for is total disinterest. Not a good look. But again, if you work on execution, speed, and effort level defensively, there's a real player in Height. At number 18, it's Brayden Yager. It's hard to solidify Yager in a certain spot for the ranking. I was expecting so much more out of him this season after what he did in his draft -1 season, but nonetheless, 78 points in 67 games is still a good production. He's also finished the year with a strong 16 points in 10 games for the playoff. It's easy to like Yager because he has a real high-end NHL tools and is a versatile player with a real two-way game. But it's also easy to be disappointed with the goal totals and the nights where you could barely see him even though he played something like 25 minutes or so. The thing with Yager is that he has a real potential to be a 30-plus goal scorer. He has an amazing shot and there's no way to stop him from releasing it. First defender, they have no time to see it coming. The release is just so fast, but it's also how he can shoot hard and precisely even when there's no chance he can shoot it. He's an unreal shooter, but he only scored 28 goals. I can't even process that. I can't remember the last time I seen such a disparity between the tool itself and the result. In this case, the shot and the production. 28 goal is nothing in contrast to Yager's shot. But anyway, Yager isn't just a shooter. He also has a good detailed game and is a good two-way forward. He works hard in all three zones. He supports his defenders effectively, transitions the puck through give and goes, and finds space to shoot the puck in the offensive zone. He has a real positive value for his team. He's also a better passer than I expected and can make plays from high to low, low to high, side to side, but he's not breaking down defenses with his manipulation. So while he has the passing skills, I don't think he'll be a driver at the pro level, more the guy who plays off the puck and get into spaces for shots. I like him quite a lot, but I wish there was more of an evolution of his game throughout the season. I wish he developed more playmaking habits to make him a real dual threat, but anyway, his development isn't finished and he's already a very good player. At 17, I have Colby Barlow, and man, I love Colby Barlow. It's not just the stats. Yes, the 46 goals in 69 games is amazing, but as a player, he is fantastic. Not a spectacular player to watch whatsoever, but a player that does everything well and have a devastating shot. Obviously, when we look at Barlow, we understand that he isn't the playmaker on his line or the driver on his line. He doesn't have that skill set. He can pass, but he will go for a little 5 to 10 foot passes or give and goes to reposition into scoring position. He's not solving the defense from the flank. That's going to be somebody else's job. What Barlow does, though, is anticipate the play and the places to be to release his powerful one-timer. That shot will eliminate a goalie from the surface of this planet someday. If no space is given to him and he can't find a way to find soft ice to unleash his cannon, he will just bully his way to the net in a straight line and crush everything on his way. He is just as comfortable sitting in front of the net to get rebounds and create chaos as he is as shooting one-timers. Just that is enough to make him a threat, but that's not where it stops with him. If he has a minimal amount of space in the zone, he can release one of the most powerful and heavy drag shots in this draft in the blink of an eye. He can change that angle and curl that shot on what seemed to be like 10 foot and release a bomb of a shot. As you can probably see, I'm pretty excited about Barlow's shot, but that's not where it stops. He is a very responsible forward and will work just as hard defensively as he will offensively. His motor just never stops. He just wants to play the game, and he wants to play the game hard. He finishes all of his checks, retrieves all of the pucks, protects it, and brings it to the net himself night after night. He's always a threat. Maybe he needs to gain a step or two. Maybe he's more mature than the average OHLer. That doesn't change the fact that he's a monster that plays a relentless game, that can score every way you want it, and that will take care of his defense also. He's the prototypical player that will help a team win and will play the game however the team needs him to play to win. I'm a big fan, but I have him a little bit lower because of his limited passing ability. So at 16, I have Quentin Musty. Musty had a really good season with 78 points in 53 games, with basically one goal every 2 games. I think Musty basically does everything at an above average level except for his skating, which is probably somewhere between average to a little under average. One of the issues is that we don't always get the same Musty night after night. If we did, he'd either be a second, third round pick or a top 10 pick. When Musty is on, he's a beast that plays down the middle, shield the puck with his body, distribute from the inside, shoot from the inside, drop his shoulder and get to the net. He also back checks on defense, forechecks aggressively, and finishes all of his checks. When he's off, sometimes he becomes a distributor from the perimeter that doesn't attack within the dotted lines. Other time, he becomes a selfish and tries to do everything himself. He still back check, but basically just hit people. Either way, he becomes an ineffective player with not much to show for. But in the end, he has the skills, he has the body, he has the brain to be the first player. He just have to understand that he needs to be that guy night after night. If he does work on his consistency, the team that will pick him are gonna hit the jackpot. He has Jimmy Snuggerud progression written all over him, which is why I have him at 16. He is also very young, being a July 2005 birthday, giving him plenty of room and time to grow and work on getting better. Another reason to have him high is that off the top of my head, I can't think of a player that improved as much as he did over the course of the season. If he can keep that progression line going, which age indicate he could explode next season and develop into a great power winger. And finally for today, at number 15, I have Dmitri Simashev. If it wasn't for his underwhelming stats this season, he'd be the first defenseman on my board and in my top 10. But his production was bad, very bad. There's no other way to put it. 10 points in 29 games in the NHL is underwhelming to say the least, and same goes for 0 points in 18 KHL games. For comparison, Gulyayev had 1.14 points per game in the MHL, while Simashev had 0.36 point per game over the season. Gulyayev had basically 3 times the production of Simashev in the MHL. To give him credit though, he did have a much better offensive production in the second half of the season. The toolkit on Simashev is elite though. The guy is 6'4", over 200 pounds and can skate like the wind. Not just he skates very well for his size, he skates extremely well, period. The 6'4" part is just icing on the cake. He has very good puck skills. Maybe his teammate Daniel Booth showed him how it's done, but yeah. Great hands, especially for his size. Physicality and compete is off the chart. It's evident that he takes every entry attempts against him as a personal attack and will make you pay for it. Overall, an amazing package. When you watch Simashev, at least for me, it took some time to start appreciating the player, but he definitely grew on me big time since, like I said, if it wasn't for the production, he would be the first defenseman on my board, but at the same time, he is the type of defenseman that I really like. Defensively, he doesn't give you an inch. He is extremely overwhelming. He blocks the middle of the ice, giving you a little bit of space on the side only to smooch you along the board where the attacker has nowhere to go. And that's when he gives you the entry. Most of the time, he won't and will stop the attacker in the neutral zone by swiping the puck away or by closing the gap right there. If you're attacking his side, you better be ready. It's going to be an uphill battle. I think there's no way he doesn't become at least a great shutdown defenseman in zone defense and off the rush with some good transition value. Maybe he doesn't hit on offense, but the rest is just such a rare package. In puck retrievals and transition, he uses all kinds of little fakes and little gestures to evade the pressure, which is great to see from a guy that could just use his body, his skating, and his reach to retrieve the puck or move it forward. It makes me think that there's more offensively when a guy uses all the tools available to him to throw players off, even though he has such great physical advantage that he couldn't be stopped anyway. If any of you are interested, you can go watch all the MHL games for free on the MHL website, pick a few games that him and Booth played together and enjoy the show, follow number 26 for Simashev and 50 for Booth, and watch one dominate offensively and the other one overwhelmingly impose himself on poor junior players. Alright people, that is it for today. I'm interested to know who you guys have in that range. Let me know in the comments. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.